Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex in case you are new here. In today's video, I actually wanted to do something different and go through my entire Monstera collection. I always love to see people's collections of a specific plant, so I also wanted to make a video like that as well, showcasing my Monsteras today. Monsteras are one of my favorite type of plants, and I do have quite a few in my collection. I'm also going to be talking about some Monsteras that I've had in my collection in the past that I no longer have as well. The first plant that I want to talk about is actually my pride and joy. It is my Monstera Albo. I do have two Monstera Albos, but this one in particular is my absolute favorite, and it really is my baby and it's everything to me. This plant is very large, so I'm going to do my best to show it off in this video. If I have to, I'll definitely insert a picture of it so that you can see it more clear. So as you can see, this is my Monstera Albo. It's definitely grown quite a bit since when I first got it, and there's a lot going on. This plant has been air layering for a while, and it's produced all of these aerial roots that also need to be potted up in the same air layering method. This plant is really large and really heavy, so I'm so sorry that I can't hold it the entire time. So this leaf right here is actually the newest leaf, and the last two leaves have started to put out fenestrations, which is awesome. So I'm super excited. So I've definitely been waiting quite a while for this plant to produce fenestrations. Going to put the plant down, but like I said, I'll try to insert a picture so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So I did actually get my Monstera Albo that I just showed you back in, I think, February, and I will insert a picture of how it looked when I first got it. It was just 2 leaves, and now as of December, it actually has 11 leaves. So it has grown quite a bit. It has been almost a year of me having this plant. This plant is very special to me because it's one of the first rare plants that I ever got in my collection. So it does hold a special place in my heart because it means a lot to me. There is kind of like a little funny story that goes along with this plant because I actually got this plant at like 3 in the morning one night in Philadelphia. I was out with my boyfriend and we were with some friends at a birthday party. It was super late at night, and I was sitting there checking my phone on one of the Facebook groups, and I saw somebody in Philadelphia where I was selling the Monstera Albo, and I was like, I need to have this plant. So I messaged the seller expecting them to like respond in the morning, and then we could come and meet up like another time and get the plant, but they literally responded right away at like 3 in the morning and told me to come. So we did, and we literally picked up the plant at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I cannot believe like I have this plant, but yeah, we did get it at like 3 a.m. and it's just super funny. Since having this plant, I've never cut it. I don't plan on cutting it either. I am currently air layering the plant, and I do plan on continuing to air layer this plant. I just haven't got around to actually addressing it yet, but I'm definitely going to continue to do it. My goal with this plant is honestly just to see how big I can actually grow it. Right now it is in a 6.5 inch pot, and soon it will have to be potted up. So yeah, I'm really trying to just wait it out and see what happens with this plant. I really just want to grow it big, and I'm hoping that one day I can have it displayed in my living room really nicely under like a grow light or something like that, and just have it out on display because it's such a beautiful plant and it means so much to me. The variegation on this Monstera Albo specifically is the type of variegation that I love. It's very high variegation, and considering how high the variegation on this plant, I've never gotten a leaf that was full white, so I'm actually shocked because the stem is actually very, very white. So there are times where I get a little bit worried when a new leaf comes out, but then it does end up having green, so that's great. I don't really experience any browning on this plant. The browning that is on there is actually browning from when I first got the plant. So like I said, when I got the plant, it actually had 2 leaves, and the 2 leaves were already browning, and those 2 leaves are still there. They have not fallen off yet. Surprisingly, it's been almost a year, and those are still the only 2 leaves that have browning on it, so I guess I'm doing a good job. I do keep this Albo in my Millsbo cabinet, which is holding about 90 to 100% humidity, so that is probably a huge factor in it. I do expect there to be some type of change when I do decide to finally move it out of the cabinet, but for right now it's living in there. The plant is great, and I've had no issues with this plant whatsoever. All in all, I think Monstera Albos are 100% worth it, and I love them so much, and I don't think that I could see myself never having this plant. So this is one that I cherish a lot, and I always make sure that I take care of this plant and I'll never neglect it. So since we are on the topic of Monstera Albos, I figure I will show you guys my other Albo that I have. This is the other Monstera Albo that I have in my collection. I have 2, this one and the previous one. As you can see, the variegation is much different. This one is actually a little bit more mature because it does have some double fenestrations as well. Even though the variegation is much different on this Monstera Albo, I do still love it very much, and I actually do like how it is more green than white. I think it's really pretty. It has a really nice marbling color to it. So this Monstera Albo is kind of newer in my collection. I got it a few months ago at an Ecuagenera pop-up event. It came from one of their Florida greenhouses and it was completely acclimated, so I figured why not go ahead and get it. So it has only been a few months of it being in my own care. It hasn't put out a new leaf yet, but the root system is looking really good, so I'm expecting a leaf to come sooner than later. This plant is actually in lower humidity and I keep it in my RESTOCKS, which is about 70 to 80%, but it seems to be doing quite well in there with no issues. The one thing I feel like with Monsteras is that it really doesn't matter how much humidity that you give them. I think that they're going to do great regardless. Obviously more humidity is going to help them a little bit more, but I don't think that it's 100% necessary with these plants. They're going to just grow regardless. So this one is a little bit more affordable compared to the other one because of the type of variegation. This one is more green and not as white as the last one, so obviously this one is much cheaper. So when you are looking for a Monstera Albo, make sure that you are paying attention to the variegation in the stem, because the stem variegation is going to basically give you an idea of what the variegation in the leaves is going to look like. The next plant that I want to show you is actually my Monstera Thai Constellation. I really do love this Thai Constellation because it does have a good amount of yellow patches, but it also gives that speckling as well. So I did actually get this plant around the same time that I got the first Monstera Albo. I think I got this plant in February or March, but when I first got it, it was much smaller, and I'm gonna just tell you right now that this plant has put me through absolute hell, and I'm finally in a better place with it. This plant has got root rot so many times, and I am 100% aware that Thai Constellations are kind of known for root rot, so just be careful of that. If you're looking for one, you really have to be paying attention to the plant because it does just out of nowhere get root rot sometimes. It's a little bit sensitive. So at one point this plant did have 4 leaves and the 2 baby leaves did die off, and now I'm left with these 2. There has been an active growth point on this plant for quite some time now, but the leaf still hasn't came out. I'm not sure why. I think I might need to repot the plant, but every single time I have repotted this plant, it ended up in root rot. So I'm just kind of putting it off. But as you can see, the roots are nice and thick and healthy, so I know that it is doing pretty well. And that is the good thing about having the plant like this in a clear pot, is because you can always see what's going on. So when the root rot is occurring, I can address it right away. It makes things much easier. This plant also is kept in the Millsville in really high humidity, so I think that it does the best in there. I am definitely really curious about the way that the next leaf is going to look, because I've been looking forward to the fenestrations on this plant as well. I'm really hoping that it does have fenestrations on the next one, and I hope that it is much bigger than these 2 current leaves. All in all, I do love the Thai Constellation, but I will say that I love the Albos more. If I had to choose between the 2, I would always choose an Albo. I just prefer that one much better. I also personally feel that the Thai Constellation hasn't really held its value the way that the Albo is. Yes, both plants are coming down, but I still feel that the Albo is a lot more valuable than the Thai. I just feel that the Thai is just coming down a lot, and it just really doesn't hold its value. So if you're looking for one and you're patient enough, I would suggest to just wait, because you can probably find one between like 100 to 150 bucks, and honestly that's pretty affordable for this type of plant. In my case, this plant has been a slow grower, so maybe it's just me, but just keep that in mind that it might grow slow and it might have some root rot issues. So as for care, I would always gravitate towards the Monstera Albo, because I've had no issues with the Albo compared to the ones that I've had with this plant. The next Monstera that I want to show you guys is one that I've actually never wanted, and the reason I only got it was because it was on sale and it was a really good deal, so it was something that I couldn't really pass up. But lately I've actually started to love it, so I guess it kind of worked out in the end. This is my Monstera Obliqua Peru. This is one of the older leaves. As you can see, it's pretty big. And lately it just popped out this leaf here and this leaf down here, and it actually has a new leaf coming in. This plant also has given me a lot of stress with root rot and with it just producing runners. The Monstera Obliqua Peru is pretty known for putting out runners if you do not get it on a moss pole or something right away. When I first got it, it kept putting out runners for the first like 2 months, and then finally I decided to get it on a moss pole, and I think that helped a lot. Another thing that has helped me a lot with this plant is that I keep it in a little bit lower lighting than the rest of the plants. So I do keep this in my RESTOCKS cabinet. However, I hide it underneath of other plants so that it's a bit shaded. It tends to do better in lower light. I don't know why, but me giving it less light and giving it a moss pole has definitely helped it produce actual leaves and not runners. Definitely keep that in mind in case you are having trouble with this plant or you're looking for it. I think this plant is very unique. I think it's beautiful. Now that I have it under control, I would say that it's pretty easy care now. I just water it when it's dry, and it's been doing much better. I was keeping it a little bit too moist before, and that's why I was getting root rot. So now I let it completely completely dry out, and then I will water it again. As you can see, these are the roots, so it's been growing quite a bit now in this 4-inch pot, so eventually I will have to pot it up a little bit so it has more space to grow, but it's looking great. I'm really excited for these leaves to get a little bit bigger. I really do love this plant now that I got it, and I'm actually kind of happy that I did decide to get it. The next plant that I want to show you guys is actually this Monstera Adansonii Mint. I seriously love this plant so much. I love the type of irrigation that it gives. I think it's gorgeous. It's been super easygoing as well. This one in particular is actually an import. I did import it from Indonesia. It did come to me in quite poor condition, so I ended up chopping all of the roots off because they were completely dried out and rotted. I re-rooted it in water, which it grew back really quickly, and then I now keep it in a mixture of pon and leca. You can see some of the roots here. It's been growing wonderful in this cup actually. It's in a mix of pon and leca, and it's really been loving it. And I did recently put it on a moss pole. This is a moss pole that I sell on my website. I sell these in clear like this, and I do sell them in white. I do fill all my semi-hydro plants moss poles with leca. I actually do not use moss at all. I'm just calling it the term moss pole because that's what it is. But yes, this plant is on a leca pole, and some of the arrowroots actually have clinged onto the leca. So that is good. So I know that it's working. It's been super easy care. I do want to grow this plant quite big. I haven't really had any issues with this plant at all. I do highly recommend it if you are looking for a variegated like Adansonii. It's been super easy. I think it's beautiful. The variegation is really nice, and it seems like it's very stable. So I really do love this one, and I highly recommend it. Now, the last Monstera that I have in my collection as of right now is this Monstera here. This is the Monstera Archipelago or Archipelago. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'll put the name here. I apologize. This is a new plant for me. I got it I think a month ago, and then unfortunately when I unpotted it out of the nursery pot that it was in, it was completely rotted. I ended up just chopping the roots down, and then I re-rooted in water, and now it's in pot. So it's been growing quite nicely in a mixture of pon and leca, just like the Adansonii Mint, and I treat it the exact same way. As you can see here, this is how it's been growing. It's definitely been growing really quickly now that it's been in the pond. So if you're ever looking to try pond, I do highly recommend it. I really haven't had any fails with it yet, and the plants seem to love it. So yeah, this plant has been super easy as well. It did cost me quite a bit, and honestly, I kind of should have looked at how expensive this plant was. I feel like I did kind of overpay for this plant, but I really don't know because I really don't see this plant that often, and I don't really see them like with this color. I don't really know. So yeah, it's been doing so much better now since it's been in the pond. It's rooting much better. No more root rot. Like, I love it. I think it's gorgeous. And it is putting out a new leaf here. That will be the first new leaf in my care. So I'm excited to see how that looks. And hopefully in the future, I can grow this one kind of big and start to take cuttings of this so that I can supply this on the shop. And I would also recommend it as well. So those were all the Monsteras that I currently have in my collection at the moment. I've had some other Monsteras in the past that I no longer have. So I do want to go through those as well and talk about my experience and why I don't have them anymore. So I'm going to just pull pictures of them from when I had them, and I'm going to put them over here. So another Monstera that I had in my collection was actually the Monstera Siltepecana. I do love the Siltepecana a lot, but I just feel like I don't need the plant to enjoy it. I had it for a few months and then realized that this is just not a plant that I really need to be holding on to in my collection, and I did sell it. However, I do love the plant, and I do love the silver blue color that it has on the foliage. It's really beautiful. If I was to go ahead and get another Monstera Siltepecana again, I would definitely go for the Monstera Siltepecana El Salvador, which I'll put up here so that you guys can see. This one in particular, I really do love, and I haven't really been looking for it. I'm not really looking for plants right now, but if I do come across it, I definitely would love to keep that in my collection. So I don't need both the Monstera Siltepecana and the Siltepecana El Salvador. It's kind of just overkill for me, so I would rather just have the El Salvador. It's unnecessary for me to have the Siltepecana right now. It wasn't a plant that I fell in love with. So yeah, I did decide to sell it, and that person appreciates it much more than I did. Another Monstera that I've had in my collection that I no longer have is actually the Monstera Dubia. I loved the idea of having a dubia, but I did not like having a dubia. If that makes any sense, this type of plant, it shingles up a moss pole or a plank or whatever you want it to, and as it gets more mature and larger, it actually will change its shape and look completely. And I think that is what I liked about it, but I didn't want to grow it myself. So yes, I actually did end up selling that plant to somebody else who wanted it much more than I did. I do think that the plant is really pretty. I do love the leaves. I think it's gorgeous. I just could not for the life of me get it to cling onto the moss pole. I couldn't get it to cling onto the plank, nothing. It was just putting out runners and like these little itty bitty leaves, and it was just driving me crazy because I just wanted a mature Monstera dubia so bad and I just like couldn't get one. So I just let my frustration get to me and I just didn't have any patience for it, and I ended up just selling it. One thing about collecting plants is that you definitely learn to have patience, and at the time I had no patience for that plant. Maybe I would get it again if it was a little bit more mature, but I just felt like it was going to take forever for me to get the plant that I was looking for. I still think it's gorgeous and I do really love the mature form. It's just I just don't have the patience for it. It just would not attach itself and it was just getting so frustrating, and that is just something that happens and it's okay. So yeah, I had the dubia for a little bit, but I did end up selling it. And another Monstera that I used to have in my collection was actually just a regular Monstera Adansonii, but the leaves were really large. The leaves were actually like this long. It was huge and it was really long. It was like a tall plant. I'll put a picture here so you guys can see. And honestly, thinking about that plant really makes me sad because it actually died, and I got that plant for free from somebody on Facebook. She was just giving it away and I was like, oh my god, really? Like, she's like, yeah, take it for free. Like, when I got there, she just didn't even want me to pay or anything. She just gave it to me. I remember I was like so happy. It was gorgeous. I was like, this is beautiful. It was just such a tall, like beautiful plant, and I had left it alone for months. I didn't like even repot it. I just like left it alone, and then when it was time for me to finally repot it because it had outgrown its like 5-inch pot, it literally just declined, and I still don't understand like what happened. It just died. I ended up like taking a bunch of cuttings of it, and then it just kept producing little tiny baby leaves, obviously. And then I was just like so frustrated, and I was just like, oh my god, my big Adansonii is gone. Like, I was so sad, you guys, because I felt like it was so special that this person like wanted to give it to me for free and I let it die. But like, sometimes things happen when you do a repot, things can go wrong. And at the time I wasn't that experienced with plants. It was like one of my first plants in my collection. I definitely learned a lot from then, but I am really sad looking back on this picture because like that plant was really beautiful and I had it like in the corner of my living room. It was really pretty, but you know, it's okay. I can always get another one. But it was just really nice because the Adansonii leaves were so large, and I had never seen Adansonii leaves that large in person before, so I was really happy to have it. But yeah, it did die. I hope you guys enjoyed this little sit down video of me going through all the Monsteras that I have in my collection and the ones that I've had in the past. I really do love Monsteras and I am looking forward to collecting more. I hope that I can collect more in the future as well. And in the comments, let me know what your all-time favorite Monstera is because I'm really curious to know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!